I think what जो सबसे ज़्यादा बहुत ज़रूरी है ये है हम कैसे खुद को कमिट करते हैं किसी भी इनिशिएटिव के साथ. And consistency is the key, which I believe, as Abhishek, your sir, is telling us that all of you are very, very committed and very positive the way you are associated with such an initiative. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, I am Shweta Singh and I am the project lead here at Team Sahyog.
Hi everyone, I'm Gauri Agarwal and I'm the team lead here at Project Sahyog.
And here's us welcoming you to another one of our installations of Soch Sundays. We're honored to have here with us Ms Astha Nagpal. Ms Astha Nagpal is a clinical psychologist. She also is the founder of Daffodils Therapy Studio, which opened just previous year in the month of February.
She works as a clinical psychologist with Daffodils. It is primarily a care center for counseling and psychotherapy, which caters to children, adults, couples, and families of all age groups who are facing any psychological stress, such as difficulty to commit to work, disinterest in their routine, inability to commit to relationships, feeling absent or alienated in one's relationship, episodes of low mood or severe depression and anxiety, and other psychological concerns. She aims to expand the horizons of the center to gender specific narratives, mindfulness based psychotherapy, exploring human connections through building narratives, and attempting to build a dynamic and eclectic presence in the field of mental health. She has also worked as a consultant counselor with Kiruri Mal College, University of Delhi. Ms. Astha Nagpal, she's had a work experience of 7+ years in association with schools, colleges, and health institutes. I must say, ma'am, we're really lucky to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, all of you.
Thank you so
and
much.
Thank you for such a elaborate introduction. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Gauri. Indeed, ma'am, we're honored to have you here. That being said, we will begin with our conversation with Ms. Astha Nagpal. But before that, ma'am, since we are, centering this conversation around mental health and we're attacking the stigmas that surround it, how would you define mental health? As in, what is your definition of mental health?
Okay. That's, I think, the very question itself suggests that there cannot be a standard definition. हम mental health को एक तरीके से नहीं define कर सकते. It varies from individual to individual. But I believe the first word that comes to my mind is with mental health, is in association with your general well-being, a sense of positivity, eagerness to to work towards your goal, to be able to feel a sense of contentment while you are going through struggles in your life. There are goods and bads, there are fluctuations, there are successes, there are failures, where you are able to allow yourself to observe and experience in a holistic way, which means you have those coping skills and an understanding of your own self, how you respond to stresses in your life, and to be able to cope up with that, I think, to me, defines mental health. So it's your body, it's your mind, it's your mood, it's a combination of all of it.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that answer. I think I sort of have a better understanding of mental health now. So I guess I'll move on to the team, because I'm sure the team is bursting with excitement to ask questions. So I guess our first question is by Namya. I think, Namya, if you're here with us, this is your chance. Go ahead.
Hi, Namya.
Hello, ma'am. So, ma'am, I would like to ask that what are the most common illnesses among the students and how have they increased due to e-learning and COVID-19?
Okay, so when we talk about students, it's also very important to observe which age bracket are we talking about. Are we talking about children? We are talking about adolescents. We are talking about young adults. So I believe, let's say we are talking about adolescents from 11 to 20, 19, if we take that age bracket, I think what is commonly observed in this age bracket are there are relationship issues, because you are you're open to new relationships, experimenting your friendships, how you're bonding, your bonding with your family also changes, because the need for privacy with age also increases, and how that impacts the relationship with your family, which I think came out as a very prominent concern during lockdown. When we all, especially last year, when we were all sitting at home, we were doing our studies, we were practically living a life, everything, through our internet, through virtual medium, and how there were issues of privacy, not having a space of your own, and it became very prominent, which was not really a concern with teenagers, but how it brought in concerns of frustration, anger outbursts, also anxiety, and what I feel, sometimes what we do is we trivialize the concerns being brought up by students, adolescents, in the name of they are addicted to social media, there's too much of screen time, they are always with their friends, they are hooked up to an internet culture, they are they are binging on junk food, and everything becomes a space of sort of a complaint, a blame. So there is a very strong sense of blaming attitude in our culture, where it's very easy to just sideline the concerns being brought by an adolescent, which could be physiological, which may be result of some psychological distress. It could be academics, it could be your physical health, it could be your relationships, not meeting your friends for almost 3-4 months straight, or even more than that. I think it had an impact, it had an emotional impact on all of us, and especially a student who visits school every day, there it's a very different space to go to school each day and to engage in co-curricular academics, and you there's so much you learn, which all was compromised. So if you talk about this, especially lockdown, COVID times, which led to e-learning, I think it brought in issues of academic difficulties when it comes to concentration, to be able to sit in the class, online class where you have luxury of switching off your camera. Maybe you don't want to listen because when you आप दिख ही नहीं रहे हो तो नहीं पता सामने वाले को कि आप सुन भी रहे हो या नहीं, and I think all of us have served our Instagram while we've attended our classes. We are still on bed sleeping, and we are we are present in the class, and I think that has led to the consistency which we started today's conversation with. I think that has got compromised, perhaps leading to sense of comparison, and maybe a degree of inferiority also for not being able to cope up with the academic stress. Um, I mean, of course, there are mood swings, there are mood fluctuations, there are issues with appetite. A lot of us engage in binge eating, or we've stopped eating. Uh, there is our routine has been compromised big time. I think not just students, everybody. We all are up till late, and then we have to attend our classes. We are not meeting our friends. I think there has been a lot of frustration, a lot of anxiety, a lot of disappointment, leading to perhaps disinterest in general in life are some of the things, are some of the factors which have come up very strongly, especially during, this whole new normal, this whole virtual learning. And of course, concentration issues, distractions, not being able to focus. And that does not mean that, we can diagnose them with a disorder. I think we also need to understand that it is also very circumstantial. So that's why I'm also holding myself back from using clinical terms like depression, general anxiety, eating disorder, or ADHD, because I believe there have been more factors contributing to symptomatology of that kind, which needs to be addressed, of course.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And actually, I mean, I also was like really late up at night yesterday, and I had to get up this morning for this. So, yeah. So I guess I'll move along to the next question. The next team member, Isha, if you're here with us, I guess you have our next question. So go right ahead.
Yeah.
Hi,
Good
Isha.
morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, since we just talked about mental health and you gave us a little background about mental health and illnesses associated with it, could you also tell us what students can do to cope with the pressures of e-learning and the negative effects it might have on one's mental health?
Okay. So, I would like to understand, when you say coping up with e-learning, what are the difficulties that you are experiencing with e-learning that needs to be taken care of? I think if you could give me few instances, I will be better able to contextualize and help you understand how to cope up with that. Any one of you, if you could tell me the difficulty that you're experiencing with e-learning.
Ma'am, like one of the biggest things is the screen time has increased. So it not only causes physical pressures, but it also causes mental pressure in the sense that you're just locked in a room staring at a screen the entire day. So there's no recreational activity happening in that period.
And I agree with you on that, but I believe you won't agree with me if I say that, dedicate your screen time to your school hours and, stop using phone or your laptops for social media. I think that would be unfair to say. I think we need to somewhere strike a balance. Um, see, we also need to acknowledge that there is a clear limitation in the very system of education right now, which is completely running on virtual medium. Uh, to be able to stay connected, to be able to also, stay updated with your education, with your learning, there has to be some medium which keeps you connected, not just with your peers, but also with your teachers. And unfortunately, the medium is, it is through internet. And uh, I really not sure how we can, how we can balance those hours. I'm not sure how many hours do you have your classes. Are they, are you sitting for your classes exactly the same hours you used to in your school when you used to go to school, or have they substantially reduced and they are only specific to your academic classes and nothing else? But I think what we can do for sure is, maybe we can engage ourselves into things that help us revive, that helps us maintain our equilibrium, our body and mind. Where are we taking care of our physical health outside the screen hour that the time that we spend on sitting and listening to our classes? I mean, let's say, since your cameras are off, how about attending to the class while you're maybe walking in the room? Sometimes that also helps us in retaining the information. I used to do that when I used to have my exams. I used to prefer walking and learning, and it is quite effectful. It's quite effective. Um, I think it's important to ensure that you're eating healthy and you're having, smaller meals every 2 to 3 hours. I know these are very, very basics, which I believe we all must be in some capacity following. But what really plays an important and essential role is our sleep. Um, I know that we may not be able to cut our screen time, especially the time that is allotted to school or college. But if we are able to ensure that, we have sufficient number of sleep hours, we are not engaging ourselves into a screen time at least half an hour before we go to sleep. I think it is good enough for us to restore, ourselves back for the next day, for the next day grinding. Um, and I believe I see it all comes down to the physiological. Even before we talk about mental, we talk about the psychological impact, such conversation have on us. I think our body responds much quicker. We feel fatigued. We feel, our eyes are can feel very heavy. We may not want to get up from our bed. So it's important that you are able to observe these signs, these signals, and our body gives signals. And if you're able to work on that, um, I think then you will also be in a position to observe and reflect what it is doing to you emotionally and psychologically. And then that can be addressed eventually.
Ma'am, I would like to build up. I would just like to ask, like, if there is another barrier, kind of like, not all of us have good family relations. So, especially while e-learning, like when we go to school, it was like, we could go, and that distraction was not there. So now, if like your parents are fighting or something, then how can you cope with that?
Um, See, you cannot really, I wonder if we can really do much about our parents fighting in the next room, or the usual family conflicts, which can become very embarrassing, especially when our mics are on, and our friends can hear from our end that there's something wrong in your home, and how we carry that sorry face as if we are responsible for that. But it's very important that we also learn to assert and establish one boundaries, which have, of course, been compromised being at home. We all don't have big houses. We have to accommodate ourselves, in two-room set. And well, let's say if your father is also working, your mother is also working, you have a sibling who also have classes, and you have two laptops at home. And I have come across people, with these very realistic and genuine concerns that our classes times are clashing, and we don't have access to internet, we don't have access to laptop or mobile to be able to attend to classes, and so I think these are very recent crisis that we all are experiencing, which there is no reference to. Something of this is not being seen by so many of generations who are living at the moment. But when you talk about, especially when you talk about parents fighting at home and you have to attend your classes, I think what becomes more important, Gauri, is also to understand what those conflicts, what that friction within the home is doing to you. You would still attend class for 30 minutes and shut down your laptop. But I think somewhere, as individual, as children, we are also receiving so much we are witness to a conflict at home, which we don't know why there is, or what really is making our parents fight. But it is doing something to us emotionally and psychologically, and it's very common, like to then see that we display the same emotional reaction to our friends, to even to our family. It also sort of becomes a normalized space. यहाँ सब लड़ते हैं, यहाँ लड़ सकते हैं, यहाँ चिल्ला सकते हैं, यहाँ you can bang the door on somebody's face and just get down to your room and sit and watch your phone. So what you're bringing is much deeper than just this one, just how to fix that moment of embarrassment because your parents are fighting while you're attending a class. I think there isn't much that you can do, but I don't think that's something that you need to be apologetic about either. What is important here is to understand what that has done to you. What is that making you feel when you see your parents, when you see a couple, they're fighting in the house, and you are pretty much there. You don't have access to parks, you don't have access to anybody else's home, you cannot go out on a drive, you cannot go for work. And people have struggled, people have, students and children have experienced that, which has come across as a very difficult, and it's very difficult to also convince yourself to believe, to see that side of your parents which you didn't have access to because आप थे ही नहीं घर जब ये सब होता था शायद. So that has also contributed a lot in how we have started seeing our families. So what I'm also suggesting is that these are very, very nascent developments and complexities that we are also coming across. As a child, as 15-year-old, I thought my parents were the most, ideal parents. That's how they presented themselves to me. But when during the lockdown, we all were home. So initial days were fantastic. We were all in the kitchen cooking, experimenting. They were helping me with academics. We were sitting together. We were playing, whatnot. 2 months, 3 months. What happened? I started observing, differences between my parents. If they had space, they had privacy to fight. Now it's right in front of me, and I don't know, as a 15-year-old, how to respond to a set of parents who were excellent to me, but seem to be going through a difficult time. It may make me question my own relationships. It may impact my emotional bonds with my friends or with my partner, with my boyfriend or girlfriend. So what you're suggesting is there's much more to it. There are many, many layers to this experience of seeing, family conflict, being a witness to it, which maybe you weren't before, or maybe you had an escape. Now you don't. So, these are the things that needs to be watched more closely, needs to be understood more closely, very individual specific. Like I said, mental health, you cannot put it in one compartment. You can't just say that, you can't define it in a line and say this is what it is and use this as a reference. I think to see parents fighting will impact each one of us very differently. And it's important that we are able to address and acknowledge how each one of us are being impacted, rather than trivializing or saying that तुम तो छोटे हो, तुम्हें क्या फर्क पड़ता है? You just ignore. You watch your Netflix. फर्क पड़ता है.
Thank you, ma'am. Like I feel like a lot of us will relate when with those statements like "ab chote ho" and all, because a lot of us have heard that a lot. Like "Teko to samjhega hi nahi." So yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. I believe our next team member who would like to ask a question is Divyansh. So Divyansh, if you're here with us, go ahead.
Hi, Divyansh.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, my question was that sometimes students in time of need reach out to their parents or friends or family or relatives. But in return, instead of getting help, they get a negative response like कि तू तो छोटा है, अभी तेरे को क्या ही बीमारी होगी, तू क्या ऐसे बुड्ढों जैसे पागल हो रहा है, ये सिर्फ बड़े लोगों की बीमारी है. तो अभी के टाइम पर हमारे हमारे कंट्री इंडिया में मेंटल इलनेस इतना बड़ा टैबू है कि इस पर बोलने से हर कोई हिचकिचाता है. और ऐसे में अगर हम लोग अपने फैमिली या फ्रेंड्स को रीच आउट करते हैं तो वो लोग को लगता है कि ये किसी ऐसी, उसको पागल बोल दिया जाता है, उसको एक टैग लगा दिया जाता है, ये पागल. तो इन सब से अगर हम लोगों को निकलना है तो हम लोगों को आखिर किसको रीच आउट करना चाहिए?
I think what you're sharing, Divyansh, that precisely is one of the reasons why I never reached out to my school counselor when I was your age. Luckily, we had मेरे टाइम पे स्कूल काउंसलर थी, but हमें वो क्यों थी हमें नहीं पता था. It was not told to us what is her role, when can we reach out to her, what is it that I'm supposed to watch in my behavior or in my friends or my sibling that I can suggest them to look out for someone. But I think there is a drastic change, a positive growth in that regard कि हम आज इस बारे में इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे बात कर रहे हैं. आप ये सवाल मुझसे पूछ पा रहे हो, in itself brings a sense of empowerment, क्योंकि आप कहीं ना कहीं you are taking a stand and saying that what is told to you or to us is not right. और उसको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे बोलना अपने आप में एक I think it's a sign of progress. But it is true, हम बहुत हद तक especially छोटे बच्चों की, when you guys still have that agency to talk, to reach out, but even younger kids, maybe they're going through bullying, they are going through their transitional age, there are bodily changes and whatnot. But all of it boils down to, maybe attention seeking behavior, attention seek कर रहे हैं, कुछ चाहिए होगा, and everything then focuses on क्या चाहिए, end result क्या होना चाहिए. Nobody really sits down and try to understand their experiences. If you are saying you're feeling sad, there must be something that is making you feel sad. हम बहुत solution oriented हो जाते हैं. You go out with your friends, guess what, we'll take you out for shopping. We don't really ask the person कि उसको चाहिए क्या, वो कुछ मांग रहा है क्या हमसे, या वो ये चाह रहा है उसको एक स्पेस मिले जहां वो एक्सप्रेस कर सके. Sometimes we seek that validation, that recognition of what we are experiencing, because it can be a very scary experience also. And to narrow it down to saying कि ये तो कुछ भी नहीं है, या तू पागल हो गया है, या ये तो बड़ों को होता है, अभी तेरे पे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी क्या है, तुम्हें करना क्या, पढ़ाई तो करनी है, पैसे हम दे रहे हैं, व्हीकल हम दे रहे हैं, you got the best of the food to eat, best of the clothes to wear, what is your problem, why are you feeling sad? So how everything becomes वो उसको materialize करके हम observe करते हैं, which is something that needs to be deconstructed. Having an emotional outburst or experiencing a mental illness is very different from having all the luxury in life. उसका manifestation different होगा. हम बोल पा रहे हैं, शायद हमारे पास वोकैबुलरी है इसलिए हम बोल पा रहे हैं. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है जिसके पास वोकैबुलरी नहीं है वो उदास नहीं हो सकता. लेकिन हम उसको कैसे कंपार्टमेंटलाइज कर देते. So unfortunately, parents may not be supportive all the time, teachers may not be supportive, Friends may feel equally lost. और हमें नहीं पता होता फिर हम क्या करें. I think first point of contact should be your parents. You should be able to establish that relation bond with your parents where there is a transparency. Having said that, I still don't have that with my parents. So it is not an ideal scenario. जरूरी नहीं है ऐसा हो, हम कोशिश कर सकते हैं. And it's okay if it doesn't happen. As long as you are able to create your support system in your friends, in your siblings, in your mentors, if not, parents, it's good. It's important to express. It's important to use words, to use some medium so that something gets conveyed. हो सकता है आपके friend के पास, of course your friend is of your age, वो भी उतना ही lost है. उसकी coping थोड़ी अलग हो सकती है, इसलिए वो हमें better sound दिख रहा है या हमें लग रहा है कि वो बढ़िया है. Maybe उसकी coping better हो, लेकिन वो आप ही की एज का है, तो उसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग भी लगभग आपके जैसी होगी. So in this scenario, it's very important you reach out to some senior, some professional. Okay. Mostly now schools have counselors. Some of your teachers are also trained to, to be a listener, if not a professional, but to be a listener. Okay. और अगर आपको लगे कि none of this is of use to you, is not helping you, I think it's important not to shy away from seeing a mental health professional. You don't have to reach to a psychologist, a counselor when you have suicidal thoughts. There are degrees to a certain feeling. It should not reach the extreme for you to seek out help. You can reach out to a counselor even if you think you're not able to fall asleep, you're having certain thoughts which are detrimental, your appetite is disturbed, आपका मन नहीं लग रहा है चीजों में, and you're still managing. I think you can still reach out to your counselor. Why? What will happen? You will get a perspective. You will perhaps learn how to help yourself if there is a need, and when to reach out further for help. हम बहुत हेजिटेट करते हैं वो फर्स्ट स्टेप लेने में. खुद देख लेंगे, दोस्त ने बता दिया, ड्रिंक कर लिया, स्मोक कर लिया, बेटर लग रहा है, अब घबराहट नहीं हो रही, एंजाइटी नहीं हो रही. All these will eventually reinforce a certain behavior. I'm not saying drinking is bad, smoking is bad. I'm not creating an opinion here. I'm just saying when we use such mediums, it gives us immediate relief क्योंकि वो उनका काम, वो उसका पर्पस है, बट वो हमारे बिहेवियर को, मैल एडेप्टिव बिहेवियर को रीइंफोर्स करता है. तो मुझे जब एंजाइटी होगी मैं स्मोक करूंगी, घबराहट हो रही है, लेट मी स्मोक, क्योंकि मुझे वो करने से डिस्ट्रैक्शन हो रही है और मेरी एंजाइटी उस मोमेंट के लिए एड्रेस हो रही है. क्या जिस चीज से मुझे एंजाइटी हो रहा है वो एड्रेस हो रहा है? नहीं. So I think since you guys are doing a great work, you have this initiative in place, maybe you can sort of prepare a list of organizations, private practitioners who offer volunteer services, who even if, who offer, so there are professionals who work on scaling their fees. You can look out for them. You can have, list prepared for people who reach out to you. There are organizations who work 24/7 who are available to, offer you that listing, to offer you that kind of support. But then that's something that we need to again understand and identify with individual needs. किसको किस तरीके की हेल्प की जरूरत है वो तभी पता चलेगा जब वो फर्स्ट स्टेप पे कहीं हेल्प मिल जाएगी.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Divyansh. And actually, I guess we'll really work on that, creating that list, because I remember, like, in time of need, those lists was what helped me also. Like, there was a number that I could like reach out to, and they would listen. Ma'am, sort of going off of Divyansh's question, I would like to ask, like, if I see कि अगर मेरा friend है who's struggling, I can see that in him or her, like I can see that, they're sort of going through something, then how can I sort of be a good support system to them? What can I do for them?
So, like I said while I was answering Divyansh's question, your friend is of your age, almost similar emotional quotient, uh, almost equal experiences, right? थोड़ा सा वेरी हो सकता है, डिफरेंट हो सकता है, क्योंकि हमारे बैकग्राउंड्स अलग हो सकते हैं, हमारी अपब्रिंगिंग अलग हो सकती है, बट मोर और लेस सेम. So when I am making myself available as a support system to a friend who is going through any of these psychological issues, it's very, very important that you have a support for yourself to be able to know, if it is doing something to you. We are very eager to help. It's very, we volunteer ourselves, we want to help, हम available हो जाते हैं, हाँ मुझे बता मैं सुन रही हूँ. But sometimes when what the other person is bringing, we don't realize, we identify with it. We start feeling it too much that it makes us overwhelmed. It may remind us of our own difficult experiences, which we may have gone through. And then it becomes a space of, it can be very overwhelming for us. We can have a breakdown while we are supporting a friend. I'm not saying, I'm not discouraging, don't support. What I am saying is feel free and responsible to assert your boundaries. It's very important, if you are making yourself available as an emotional listener, as an empathetic listener to a friend, you should know where to stop. Because other person may not know. If I'm sharing something extremely traumatic, you are not trained to address that professionally. It's nobody's fault. See, that's the difference between being a best friend to a support system to reaching out to a mental health professional. We all may have gone through some things, but professionals are trained to observe that experience and help the person accordingly. We are not, as a friend, as a family. So what becomes most important is observe and reflect what it is doing to you when you are making yourself excessively available to a friend who's, say, depressed. If it is making you feel worn out, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you are mentally exhausted, I think it's important that how subtly, politely you let that other person know that you are feeling overwhelmed. Maybe they need to see a professional. Maybe they need to reach out to somebody else. That does not mean you're denying to be present for that person. It just means that you are establishing a healthy boundary, not just for yourself, but for them also to, to be able to reach out to a person who can really help them. जब हम किसी को मना करते हैं, इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि हम उनकी मदद नहीं करना चाहते. हम मना कर रहे हैं क्योंकि हम अपनी लिमिटेशंस रिकॉग्नाइज कर पा रहे हैं. और अपनी लिमिटेशंस रिकॉग्नाइज करना, आई डोंट थिंक इट्स अ वीकनेस. Even if, if someone reaches out to me for therapy and I tell them, we need at least 3-4 consultations for me to understand what kind of work you want. And there are times when I may not be equipped. And I tell them, you need to reach out to some other professional. I am not trained in this to help you. So that is the key point.
Okay, ma'am. I sort of understand now, because many times it has happened that, like people reach out and then you just keep listening to them. Yeah. Shweta, over to you.
Yes, Gauri, thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. I believe it was a moving conversation, and I do agree that boundaries are necessary, and that conversation is key to any relationship, professional or personal. Uh, that be it. I think this is all the questions that we have for you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here with us, honoring our panel. And I believe everyone here, everyone who's watching this, everyone here on the panel today agrees with me when I say that we have gained so much more insight into mental health and mental illnesses in general. So that being said, thank you again. And ma'am, do you have any closing statements?
I think I'm quite initially, I'm quite impressed and happy to know that there is a sense of awareness that your generation carries. But it's also very thin line when that awareness also becomes a space of exploitation. So, like I said, it's very important to know our limits, to know what is not working out for us, what is really making us feel vulnerable, overwhelmed, upset and hurt. And if we are able to, work on ourselves in that capacity, um, and we are open to seeking out help, I think we are good to go. With the exposure, with the sense of competitiveness, um, there's a lot we already know. I don't think I've said anything extraordinary. It's out there. Somebody must have experienced it. It's all out on Google, on whatnot. So how you receive information is also very, very crucial and important. Sometimes we overload ourselves with so much, and then we get lost in that information that we've gained. So it's very important to be mindful of what we are receiving, what we are becoming part of, because that's what adulting is like. Uh, you know, uh, Problems won't end, but we would learn our ways to cope up with them. Try to have those ways to be more constructive, more positive than that uh, deteriorates your health, both emotional, physical, and psychological. So, good luck and take care. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I guess we should take your leave now.